All right. Welcome, everybody. It's my enormous pleasure to introduce Adam Derrick and Dave Goldberg, who are going to be talking to us about managed software updates. Take it away, gentlemen.
Cool. Hey, good morning, JNUC. How's everybody enjoying day 2? Yeah? Awesome. Who's excited to talk about software updates? Yeah. Awesome. We got a extremely packed room here, so if there's any open seats, feel free to shuffle in if you need, but thank you for attending. My name's Adam Derrick. I'm a field sales engineer. I cover healthcare and life science accounts at Jamf. I've been with Jamf 5.5 years. Prior to that, I was a Jamf customer, managing Apple devices for the last 16 years. So pass it over to Dave.
And I'm Dave Goldberg from Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey in Brick City, Newark, New Jersey. Adam is my SC for Jamf. I've been using Jamf since the days of Casper, 2007.
Yeah, Dave's certainly a veteran. So couldn't think of a better customer to bring up here on the stage today. So.
All right.
Awesome. So, raise your hand if you love software updates. Yeah.
Come on, you can do it. You can do it. I can't see you anyway because of these lights here, so.
Yeah, so I think there's not a single Mac I've met who wouldn't agree. Historically, software updates have been a pain. Patching has been a pain. Makes you feel like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about where we came from. And Dave, you want to take that?
Sure. So in the old days, some of you are going to laugh when you see this third or fourth icon that's coming up. There's your OS 9 disk. There's your, well, it wasn't a MacBook Pro back then. Let's imagine that was an old iMac or an iBook, let's just say. And then, oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Any semantic people in here? Don't raise your hand. All right. Please, Roger. We only have 45 minutes. So, all right. So there's your FireWire disk. I couldn't get one of those giant beige FireWire old Thunderbolt ones without it looking terrible. So there's the USB-C one, and then directly to what was our MacBook Pro, and then boom. That's how we did it. So now currently we have MDM. We have MDM commands that do that. And we're going to talk about some of the mass actions and some of the challenges of those commands. And I'll hit that over to Adam.
Yeah, so like first and foremost, MDM is dependent upon a device checking in. So, you know, for a Mac, that could be every 15 minutes or whatever you have it set to in Jamf Pro. For a device, it's kind of up in the air. You know, typically a device enrolls into Jamf, and then MDM pushes the policies down onto the device. When that device checks in, it reports back its status, but it's not a real-time status. And if you have a large fleet of devices, it's just not good. So along comes DDM. So why should you leverage DDM? Why should Jamf embrace DDM? Why are we all in this room here today talking about managed software updates? So DDM, it detects the state changes and it takes action. One of my favorite things is you have the ability to download and schedule updates, whether it be an iPad, an iPhone, or a Mac, or an Apple TV. You could say, hey, Sunday at midnight, this update needs to be applied. And if that device has a passcode on it, who cares? With DDM, we don't have to clear out that passcode. On iOS devices, that was a very large pain. Specifically, like when I was a customer, I worked in a hospital, so to meet HIPAA compliance, we had to have passcodes on our iPhones. Well, when we wanted to push down a major update, if a device was locked, we had to send out a mass action command to clear the passcodes, update the devices, and then enforce a passcode on them again. Wasn't a really good workflow. So we're really happy, we're really excited that Apple made this technology through the DDM framework available that you don't have to clear out that passcode. When the update's complete, we don't have to wait for a recon or an inventory update to have that information sent back into the device record. It's just naturally gonna happen. And with that naturally happening, that gives us better data, that gives us more accurate device information. And with all the stuff that was announced yesterday at the keynote, makes reporting that much easier. So, why use DDM? We know exactly when that update is going to occur. This has been a challenge in the past when somebody would just turn off their device and throw it into a drawer, or turn off their computer, battery dies, there's no available storage or anything like that. That's no longer a challenge. So when the device receives that declaration for the update, or when we go ahead and schedule that update on that device, that's gonna remain pending there forever. So even if it's 6 months later, I go out, I'm in the hospital, I come back from medical leave, I turn on my computer, I'm gonna get a notification saying, your computer requires an update and you have 1 hour. It's not gonna just force the update right away. You're gonna have 1 hour until that update's gonna go ahead and install. So you have no excuses from your end users saying, hey, Dave pushed this update down on me and now I can't work. So you, the admin, can specify that specific date and time, and I'll show you in the UI here in a few minutes just what that looks like. But some of the improvements that came along, obviously, Jamf's very good. Anytime a new OS version becomes available, it's available within Jamf Pro within minutes, typically. With managed software updates, presently at the moment, you could scope to smart and static groups. A question that I know is going to come up is, well, I'm integrated with Entra. I want to scope to Entra groups. We're aware of that. There's feature requests out on Jamf Nation. Please upvote those feature requests.
Love those 2 words, feature request.
Yeah.
Start to love them. They're your friends.
Yeah, we made significant investments in the feature request platform. It's no longer through Jamf Nation. It is now through a platform called AHA. So definitely upvote those feature requests. I totally understand as a sales engineer, I have a lot of customers who have their Microsoft environment tied into Jamf, and they want to be able to scope out to those groups, not only for managed software updates, but also for things like the Jamf app catalog. Cool. So download and schedule install. Big thing with this, it requires iOS 17 or later, or macOS 14 or later.
Check out the pulsing. Okay, check that out. Make sure you read that sentence.
Yes. I have people reach out to Jamf support, and they're like, hey, why aren't my updates taking effect? And it turns out they're on iOS 15 or 16. It's gonna take a little bit of time. Obviously, as you guys refresh devices, I'm sure all your employees are gonna want that nice shiny new iPhone that just came out. They're gonna want a new MacBook. As you refresh devices, it's not gonna be much of a pain, but in the interim, yeah, you need to get your devices at least at a minimum up to 17 or macOS 14 in order to embrace this technology.
And keep in mind, the size of the text is nowhere near as big in the UI as it is on that slide. And it'll say right there, if you try to schedule in small text, you can't do this because of only these machines meet the parameters.
So we launched managed software updates at JNUC last year. That was when we initially introduced it to everybody, and we made it available in beta. So when it was initially in beta, it was not in beta for a month. It was in beta for several months. And we did that kind of strategically. We wanted everybody to try it out, whether that be in their prod environment or in their sandbox environment. Try it out, give us feedback, let us know what's working and what's not working. And we got a lot of really good feedback, and we got to the point where we're like, hey, this is solid enough. We understand that it's not perfect. Nothing, as we wouldn't have jobs if stuff just worked. But yeah, we understand that it's not perfect. There's still some kinks that need to be worked out. Apple provided us with the DDM framework, and it's up to Jamf to decide what we want to do with that DDM framework to provide the best experience for y'all. So,
sorry, I went too quick.
Oh,
let me know when you want the video started.
Oh yeah, no worries. So, yeah, the video's playing right now. So,
okay.
If I go into my smart device group here, and I go to action, and I go ahead and send a remote command to go ahead and update the inventory, or sorry, not update the OS, you'll see here it pops up and it says, hey, we have this new managed software update thing available. So we're trying to let you know, hey, you should be using this instead of mass action commands. So this is located under computers or devices under software update. So I'm going to navigate over here. Okay, and you'll see you have to opt into it. So it's just saying, hey, do you want to use this new managed software update feature? When you opt into this, if you have any existing MDM commands that are pending, which you probably have lots of them, it's going to clear them. It's something that people overthink. They're just pending commands that are never going to happen. So I'm going to come in here. You'll see you could pick a computer group or a mobile device group. For this example, I'm going to focus on mobile devices, but it's the same exact experience. So I'm going to go ahead and select my group. I could select multiple smart groups if I need. And you'll see I have this option here to download and schedule to install. So from here, I could open up the calendar, and I could choose what specific date and time I want that managed software update to run at. So I'm going to come in here. Now, if I choose a date in the past, so if I choose yesterday, it's going to go ahead and send that declaration down, and it's going to go ahead and update that device right away today. But in this case, I'm just going to choose a day later this week. We have the same options that we had before, so we could say, hey, we want the latest OS, or we want a specific OS. In this case, I'm going to say, hey, update these devices to iOS 18. I'm going to go ahead and select Apply. And once I select Apply, it's going to go ahead and notify those computers or devices, and you'll see here it let me know how many devices that I had that are eligible for that update. So very simple, especially if you just have a specific subset of devices. Maybe you have a specific group of power users or something like that, that they're your beta testers for updates. You could scope it out just to that specific group. You could advance.
I can go to this, yes. So here's what's happening in the background. Okay, first the declaration gets sent to the machines. And MacBook Pro and an iPhone, any devices whatsoever. And then, because I can't see my own slide, the device will then receive the declaration. And then from there, the update will be enforced at whatever scheduled time. And then whatever the scheduled time is, if it's after that, the update will be forced to that machine. And here are some of the notifications that some of them will see. If the update hasn't started, as Adam said, they'll get a notification saying, you've got an hour to do this. Please, batten down the hatches, all that stuff.
Yeah, no excuse for someone to say, hey, Dave made it so I can't work. They can go ahead and update right now. The computer has the update, or they could work for an hour, and then the update's going to go ahead and install. So. And
then eventually, what'll happen is the software update download panel that we all love and know. And as a result, it downloads to those endpoints, and then from there, you have a minute before this machine restarts, unless you want to restart right now, And then once that happens and the restarts occur, everyone is happy. There it is.
That's the way it should be working. So, think of 2 weeks ago when macOS 15 was launched or iOS 18 was launched. You may have a lab of computers. Let's just say you have a lab of 50 computers and you send out those commands to those 50 computers. Maybe the computers over here are all going to get the update, but these ones aren't going to get it at the exact same time. And there's a lot of stuff that factors into that. Your network, what region you're in, what data center it's reaching out to. But kind of just to summarize, Jamf is making that declaration happen. Jamf is telling the computer, hey, you need to update. And it's just kind of dependent on the powers that be, whether that be your network, whether that be the data center that update is hosted in, that we're grabbing it from, on when that update is actually going to be deployed down. So my best practice, Dave, and feel free to talk about your best practice, but what I typically do, I don't come in there and say, hey, tonight at midnight, computer's gonna update. I usually give my users like a week or so. That way, the computer or the mobile device has a week to go ahead and download if it's off or whatever like that, if somebody's on vacation. They have ample time to be able to download the update and get it on the computer or the device.
What's great about this talk and doing with Adam, Adam can do all of this stuff and have it be theoretical, and then I can talk about what reality is. And I know there's Apple people in the room, whatever, so I'll have a very benign analogy here. Do we have any cat people in it? Anybody have cats? Raise your hand if you do. All right. You have cat?
Crazy cat person.
Oh. He has a dog, too. Anyway, give us a cheer if you've ever heard this phrase. Dogs have masters, cats have staff. All right? The cat is Apple. Okay? No matter what Jamf can do, they can't force Apple to give that patch down whenever we would like it. The Apple's going to do it whenever it is ready. Okay, now part of that is what Adam said, data centers, network, and everything. But I've had 20 machines in one room, all on the same network, all with the same power, and I've gotten 10 different results in terms of when that download starts, when it prepares for the installation, and when the install actually starts. This is why what happened at the keynote the other day is so important, because once declarative device management is actually in effect, that is gone. You're going to have 50 machines in a lab. They're all going to get that declarative statement. And as long as they have access to network, they could theoretically start at the exact same time, which is crucial in this process.
Yeah. Oh, can you go back a notch?
Oh.
Yeah. So a couple considerations. So first and foremost, your device is going to need a network connection. That's pretty obvious. It's also going to need a power source or ample battery life. So if the device is at 10%, you're going to get a notification saying, hey, you need to charge your device in order to update it. So, but once that computer or device does have ample power, it will go ahead and force that update. Like we mentioned, a computer device will download the update when Apple makes it available. Again, there's a lot of considerations to take into effect. And then DDM provides accurate real-time inventory information again. So the moment that update is complete, boom, it's going to update the device record in Jamf Pro. There's no recon. There's no updated inventory that's happening. That's what's so great about declarative device management.
To further his point, 14.7 just came out a few weeks ago. And I'll have at least 5 people that I'll be annoying saying, please update your machine. And they already have. And the console just hasn't shown that yet, or the inventory command hasn't run yet. With declarative device, everyone's the same. It'll just go. You'll be able to see when the machine is actually updating. eventually in Jamf Pro from what we saw at the keynote. And when we were in the Intel world, we could script out these software updates during the software update command. Once we got into Apple Silicon and the wonderful volume ownership plan, that scripting kind of went away. It could be done, but basically we needed end user interaction for their passwords and everything as a volume owner. So that really is Apple saying, don't use these commands anymore. Use your MDM, use your declarative, use your DDM. That's where we want you to go.
Yeah, and moving forward, at some point, mass action software update commands via smart groups in Jamf Pro, they're going to go away. I'm not saying they're going away today. I'm not saying they're going away in 6 months, but at some point, they're going to go away.
Not only is it they're going away, but even if it's still here, it's going to give you pain. It's going to make you not want to do it.
Yeah.
Because Apple, in their ways, they'll ask politely once, and then that's it. They will then start hitting back, saying, please don't do this. I will make your life very painful.
I'm curious, Dave, how many currently at the moment, so you've been using this for about a year now, how many different versions of macOS do you have out there now? And where did you come from?
We have one version only. We are completely standardized. Right now, everybody's on 14.7.
Anybody else in the room running one version of macOS?
Come on. Now
We got one hand back there.
Come on.
All right.
Yeah, I have over 100 endpoints. And with the exception of some stragglers overseas and everything like that, within about a month after release, everybody is standardized on the One OS. And I can tell you before this, we didn't come close to 50%, 60% of compliance. Not even close. Even with Nudge, when we would annoy the hell out of them with Nudge, it would still not come close as this, as the software update that was just notifying them to death that they needed to update their machines.
And you still can absolutely utilize Nudge alongside with this. Sometimes the native macOS notifications that pop up in the corner aren't enough. People just ignore them. So it is nice to have Nudge popping up there and being persistent. So you could use them both in tandem with one another. Nudge is a good tool.
It's a good tool, and with extension attributes, with scripted extension attributes, you could really, and there's tons of them out there on GitHub, you could write an extension attribute to see exactly what Nudge is doing, how many it hit, how many have not complied, how many are deferring or trying to get past the blur. You could get it as granular as possible.
I'm just curious in the room. So we announced this last year at JNUC, and we released it into beta last fall. How many people in the room actually enabled managed software updates in their prod environment or their sandbox?
Ooh.
Okay, so a decent amount of people.
You take a picture, Adam.
That's good.
Take a picture.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's awesome. And the reason this came out of beta was because of all of you. So everybody in this room who raised their hand that they went and toggled that on, believe it or not, you're providing a lot of valuable data to Jamf. Things happen. Updates, issues happen. So, when you deploy software update plans with software updates, you want to be able to maintain visibility over the progress of those updates. Up on the screen here, we got a troubleshooting guide. I see a lot of people scanning the QR code. That's a really helpful tool. We built that from the ground up to really cover any kind of issue that happens on a device. It also talks about the event store, which due to time, we can't go super deep into that today. But in your device record in Jamf, under the management tab, and then under operating system, that's where you could see the event store. That's what you could use for troubleshooting. So if you have a computer or you have a device and it got that declaration and something happened and that computer or that device is not updating, the event store is going to help you to be able to troubleshoot. So this is a super important guide. We constantly update it, so bookmark that. It's something good to have. We totally get it, you know, nothing's perfect. This is new. This is new technology. DDM is new. Here at Jamf, we're embracing DDM. But you have those situations that arise where maybe, you know, something's corrupt with the OS, or, you know, end user just, you know, powered down their computer in the middle of the update, whatever it may be. So we're able to get that information for troubleshooting purposes in the troubleshooting guide.
And again, this came out of beta. This was in beta almost 10 months?
Yeah, or like something like that.
You know, 10 months, which is a long time to be in beta. And one of the big pain points of this is there wasn't any type of notification, a progress bar, anything like that, because of the inflexibility of managed commands. Once it got that, you just didn't know, and it was very frustrating. Plus, there wasn't much of a log or anything that tells you, well, why did this fail, or why did this take so long? Why did 10 machines didn't get updated, you know, when they've been on power and they've been on network for 5 days? There wasn't much of any of that. In the last version of Jamf Pro, they have added a lot of those features. As Adam said, if you click on a machine and you go to manage, and you could see a lot of what has happened. But it gets better. Once DDM gets fully integrated with the next advances of Jamf Pro, and we saw this at the keynote, it'll actually say, you can actually click on a machine, it'll say OS updating. They actually showed that picture at the keynote.
Yeah, and you'll be able to use the AI assistant to say, hey, show me all the computers that got this update, and you'll be able to type that in without even making a smart group, which is pretty cool.
And again, it's not something that's very apparent to all of us coming from, okay, this is a policy, we send it down to a machine, this is how it works. These are managed commands now, which means we can't send it to an individual machine. We have to either use a smart group or a static group. And neither of those are fun to create. And in the future, AI can do all of that. It could create those groups for you and run those declarative device management statements right down to the machine. That is what's coming up in the future to end a lot of this pain, because whenever I see that there's a patch coming from Mac OS, my stomach still drops. It still does.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, I see Brad in the room. I'm gonna call you out. So Brad's my former coworker, and I mean, like, I just think back to, like, we worked in higher ed together, and I just think back to some of the professors that would just blatantly refuse to update their Mac. They would be like, well, I bought this Mac with my grant money. It's my Mac. Well, it's getting managed by Jamf. And just what a process that was to get them updated. And this is just such a nice tool. And it's so nice with the power of DDM and the managed software updates flow within Jamf Pro that you can go in there and say, hey, you know what? I don't care that you bought this computer with your grant money. You're going to be getting updated, and that's going to happen on Sunday. And hey, if you're going to pull a fast one and you're going to try to power down your computer and leave it off, well, guess what? When you power it back on, you have an hour to run that update. Oh, and guess what? If you're going to be smart and you're going to go ahead and wipe your computer, we have minimum device enforcement enabled in our pre-stage enrollment. Guess what? Now your computer's going to get updated. So there's really no way around it for those type of situations that happen.
And with Mac OSs, the vulnerabilities aren't going anywhere, okay? And the vulnerability teams cybersecurity, vulnerabilities, CIS. They're starting to figure out there's an actual company called Apple, and they make computers and phones. And they're actually starting to realize what these vulnerabilities are and what they mean. And so, I mean, the 14.7 one, that had like 3 dozen CVE in them. And that is a lot of CVE. And that's only going to continue to be like that in the future. So when that professor or that end user or that manager says, I don't want to update this, there's going to be hordes of people and hordes of mechanisms in there saying, you need to update this or your machine is getting locked. Okay, your machine is getting locked with a huge code that only we possess.
Next year when we're in Denver, you know, earlier when I was like, hey, you know, who's using managed software updates? And we had a couple hands come up. But next year when we're in Denver, I want this to be like a panel. I want everybody in this room to go back and do some testing. And then I want you guys I want to have a panel on, hey, 1 year post JNUC down in Nashville, where are we at now with managed software updates? Because it's also just kind of very, very similar at least what I receive as a sales engineer. Very similar to managed Apple accounts, formerly managed Apple IDs with Federation. You got to pull that Band-Aid off in order to embrace those new features. And a lot of people are very reluctant to go ahead and pull that Band-Aid off. But with all the new features that are out there, you're going to have to do it at some point. And you know, like I mentioned, at some point the mass action commands will be going away, and you will have to leverage DDM. So it'll be really interesting. Like earlier when I was like, hey, who in the room only has one version of macOS like Dave does? And you know, we had like 2 hands come up in the back. I bet you if we have this conversation a year from now, probably everybody in the room is going to be raising their hand.
Yep. So we're going to get to conclusions because as much as you love us, I know you love lunch more. Okay?
Cool. So just a couple conclusions. You know, Jamf Pro is fully embracing declarative device management. You know, we're lockstep with Apple. We're embracing the technology that Apple is giving us. Unlike some of our competitors, we don't just want to you know, jump ship and say, hey, we're doing this right away, and here's something that doesn't work as good as it should be. And again, that's why it was in beta for like 8 or 10 months or whatever like that. We're fully embracing it. You know, gone are the days of having multiple outdated versions of macOS or iOS on your devices. It's a better user experience. The messaging is great. Again, you're not going to have somebody saying, hey, Dave pushed this update down and I couldn't attend my Zoom meeting. You got that notification. You got plenty of notifications coming. The one thing that I actually forgot to call out is if you have focus mode or do not disturb on, guess what? Those notifications are still coming through. So there's no excuse for somebody to say, I didn't get that notification. And you know, the future is going to be better with declarative device management. You know, Apple made the framework available. Now it's up to Jamf to see where we want to go with it. I'd say this is only the beginning when it comes to declarative device management. We heard loud and clear from people that software updates and patching was something very frustrating. So we wanted to embrace that and build this out. New features definitely will be coming, again, with feedback from you all. I encourage you all in the JNUC app to take to go into the session feedback and provide any kind of feedback, not only on this session, but also on managed software updates, so we can get that along to the appropriate individuals. I also encourage you all, again, if there's something that something in the UI that you want the experience to be a little bit different, feel free to submit a Jamf AHA idea. So in Jamf Pro, at the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little purple icon for the Resource Center. A lot of people don't know what's in there, but you could access Jamf Nation, you could access your Jamf account, and you could submit a feature request right from in there. So that's how you access the feature request, is right through that Resource Center. And believe it or not, people actually do look at that stuff. I'm constantly tagging customer accounts to those feature requests. So your feedback is super important in order to make features like this even better.
And ideas.jamf.com, that's still up as well, right?
Yeah. So ideas.jamf.com will take you over to the AHA. So,
and so next year in Denver, hopefully we're all acclimated, so you're all not asleep at our next talk. But we're going to have a very different talk because there's going to be tools out by then that are going to make this so much easier.
Yeah.
And going forward, there's going to be even future tools that are going to make that even that much easier. This is the wave of the future. Anyone who is managing devices is going to be on this system.
And one thing that I did want to call out, quite often when I talk to current customers and I ask them, hey, did you test out managed software updates? They're like, no, because I don't want to break anything. And like, I totally get that. As a Jamf customer, you are entitled to a sandbox. So if you don't have a sandbox, reach out to your customer success manager or your account executive and just let them know, hey, I would like a sandbox. We'll get one stood up for you. That gives you no excuse not to test this out and get prepared for the future.
And my account rep's in the audience, so if I get this wrong, please correct me.
Hey, Matt.
But hey, Matt, we're not on Jamf Premium. We're just I don't know what the name is, Jamf Standard, I think it's called.
Standard Cloud, yeah.
So I have a sandbox that has the same OS as my production cloud instance. If you're on Premium, you can get a sandbox with betas.
Yep.
So depending on what account you have, but get that sandbox if you can and enroll a few devices. It will really save you a lot of pain and heartache.
Yeah. And just a raise of hands, like after being in this session, spending the last 45 minutes together here, who's gonna go back home and toggle on that switch in their sandbox? Yeah, we got more hands this time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Take the picture. Adam needs that house in Costa Rica. Come on. So
I do love Costa Rica. Cool. Well, we got like 8 minutes left for Q&A. So we have the microphone going around. I know we're not going to be able to answer all the questions. Before we get to the Q&A, I just want to say one thing. Any questions that don't get answered, come visit us in the expo hall. We can answer questions on Managed Software Update. First question.
So for your 100% compliance, what mechanism did you use within the software updates? Did you do deferrals? How many deferrals did you give them? And then did you have to, I've tested it a couple times and done the specific date and time to update them. I couldn't remember if the deferral gave them a specific date and time as well. So which one did you use out of that to get them?
Before Sonoma, where I couldn't schedule, I didn't give them a deferral. I chose download, install, and restart. So it forced them to do that. Now, back then the behavior was in beta, so it was inconsistent. Not everybody got the notifications. It just restarted. Not everybody got the download. They had to do it themselves. The behavior was inconsistent. Now, part of that was my network as well. I think it was a combination of things. As it's gotten out of beta, the behavior is better, but it's still not 100%, which is why they're going to DDM, because the only way to level that playing field is to have the machine have all the information and not have to check back to the mothership to do anything. Yes. Yes. And then once I kicked everybody out to Sonoma, and remember, read the release notes because I didn't, and I hit latest instead of specific OS, and half of my people uploaded to Sonoma over Christmas. Oh, fun. But once I got to Sonoma, I always schedule now because they get that. They initially get that declaration, and then once 10 o'clock on a Friday goes past, it's forced, and they have an hour, and that's it.
Cool.
So,
question in the back there?
Yeah, thanks. So the DDM declaration for software update allows for updating the date and time, but in my playing with the feature on Jamf, it is not updating the existing date and time declaration. So it looks like it's trying to send out a brand new declaration instead of updating the existing one. Support recommends turning off and turning on support, which would clear out every other declaration on the systems, and we have a couple thousand, not just 100, so that would require going through every group we've pushed out and repush with the same date to allow the one exception that had a really good reason not to update at that date and time. Is there any work going on inside Jamf to support updating existing declarations?
Yeah, I'd say absolutely those situations that arise where we have those one-off situations. Yeah, as people have been using this, we've been getting feedback like that, and yeah, I mean we're constantly trying to improve these workflows and make them better. So nothing publicly that I could speak of, but your voice is being heard.
That's a great question. I had the same thing happen to me. So, good.
So in higher education, the experience that the end users are willing to accept are very different. And that's to say that we tried this in our dev instance. And the fact that there is not a way to essentially cancel a DDM declaration, and you have to just turn it off and back on to clear those out, is a huge problem. So we're massively decentralized. We highly leverage sites. And we give our various departments within the university the ability to kind of set up their own software update or managed software update DDMs. If we have somebody who says, I didn't know about this update being required, and I have to go in and teach a lecture right now, or do research for the next week and a half, if it shuts that system down, that's a world of pain. So we have to have ability to turn off or disable a DDM. And as far as I understand, it's only possible by turning off software update entirely, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll reiterate again, please pass that along, ideas.jamf.com, put a feedback request in there. I'll also pass it along to the team. So,
do you know if there's plan to enable it for sites at all?
Nothing that I could speak publicly on at the moment, but your voice is heard.
Well,
Thank you.
I will beg for it as well.
Yeah.
Because that is so annoying, where you either have one way or the other. You have to turn them all off.
Yep.
And then that is not a workable solution.
Yeah, and that's where like I said, we have this, and obviously there's some kinks that need to get worked out, and I'd say, yeah, that's something that not only is affecting EDU, but is affecting multiple industries. So.
Some kinks are bigger than others, and this is a giant kink.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
So kind of a two-part question. So first part is, should I go and submit a feature request for visibility into what smart groups or static groups have a DDM profile assigned to them? And the second is, what happens if we have multiple groups with conflicting policies that get applied to the same set of machines?
That is a great question. I'm very OCD about my smart groups to avoid that kind of thing. But what would happen if there's existing groups that are in conflict? That's an excellent question.
Yeah, that might be one we have to follow up.
We're gonna have to research that.
Yeah.
I mean, who gets the priority?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or does none get the priority? It just says can't compute.
Yeah. Yeah. Good one.
That's a great. Yeah, we'll have to follow up on that. I'm at Temple Dave at Slack.
Yeah, I'm Derad, DERRAD on the Mac admin Slack. Adam.derek@jamf.com.
If you're not on the Mac admin Slack, what are you doing? Get on that Slack. It has saved lives. All right. Thank you, Mac Admin Foundation, for keeping that going. But be on the Slack. It is such a great community. Between Jamf Nation and that, it's the best community for us.
Yeah, we got one back there.
Yeah, I'm wondering why the download and schedule to install only works on the cloud. Are you ever going to put that on on-prem?
Another good question.
Our path forward at the moment is a lot of the new features and functionality are only available in cloud. That's kind of the path that we're going. So, yeah. We got about 1 minute left for one more question. We'll be around for if you
We'll
guys
be
want to
around,
come offline then.
I know you want to go to lunch, but we'll be around.
Say you have devices globally, worldwide, and you do a mass action, and you set a scheduled date and time. Is that going to be locally to all those devices in the current
Yes.
region? Okay.
Yep,
Cool.
yep.
I don't
It's
know if you
ba-
had to use smart groups per region and then do it that way, but
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
cool.
It takes that into consideration.
One thing I did want to mention too, so today we talked about managed software updates. Tomorrow, Dave and I are going to be talking about the Jamf App Catalog, which is a whole nother fun patching session. So
And there's a bigger wish list for the
yeah.
app catalog than for this.
yeah, so feel free
So-
to stop by that session tomorrow. We'll hang around here for a couple minutes for any questions that we couldn't answer. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for attending
all
this
so
session.
much. Thank you all
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.